The woman in black dress. The woman sighed time as she took a sip of her water. She looked around the expensive restaurant. Rich society people were having their dinner, and yet there was no sight of her date. A shiver ran down her spine, and she regretted wearing a short black dress that can hardly cover her thighs. It's too cold in her. She adjusted the dress a little by pulling it down, which didn't help much as it rides up again, but it was fine. She glanced at her wristwatch. Her date was 20 minutes late. She decided to wait for 15 minutes more, and if her supposed date doesn't arrive till then, she will get going. This was her 10th blind date that she was attending because she was forced by her friend, just because she totally can't resist her friend's puppy eyes. And so, here she is, dressed in tie short, sleeveless black dress because apparently this type of dress you're meant. The date was arranged by an app that promises you that it will provide you your potential future partner, which is ridiculous. An apps can be trusted easily, especially if you are searching for a partner, boyfriend, or even a future husband. One should never trust on dating apps, to be honest. According to her, you must be Hazel Evans. A husky voice of male pulled her out of her trance as she frantically turned around in her seat. She tilted her head up and saw a young man standing in front of her. He was dressed in casual outfit that one should avoid wearing, especially when they are going to their date. He was wearing gray hoodie with black jeans and a bucket hat, and on top of that, he was wearing a mask. It was too casual. Is he serious? Yes, I am, she said. The said man just nodded and casually walked around the table and flopped on the chair. I am Austin Roberts, he said, and pulled her black mask up to his chin, revealing his handsome face, his eyes wearing crinkling as she smiled most charming smile that Hazel had ever seen. Hazel turned white as if she had seen a ghost, her eyes wide, her mouth slightly ajar as she kept gaping at him. This can't be happening. Austin Roberts, she asked. She can't believe this. He is actually like he looks on the TV. Sharp eyes, straight nose, and thin lips. His black hair were peeking from his bucket that had given him an innocent look. Yes, Austin Robert, he simply said, with a soft smile that can make anyone go crazy for him. Austin Roberts, a 29-year-old superstar and typical nation's husband. His movies are usually blockbuster and gains in crores. Each time, he is known as a golden actor because when he debuted at her age of 23, he made a hit. He is good boy that every parent wants for their daughter, and he is the bad boy that would bring heaven for the girls in bed. The latter one is rumor, but you never know. Hazel had watched his movies multiple times, and this was unbelievable. The superstar is sitting before her. Sorry for being late. I had rehearsal to attend and then I got caught in the traffic, he explained, but Hazel was too far gone to even pay attention to what he was saying. A superstar? In a date? With her? Why? He is famous, extremely handsome and rich. Why would he need a blind date? Can't he just date some actress or idol? Hazel, a voice pulled her out. Yeah, she asked, slightly blushing at her own embarrassment. I asked, what will you have? He repeated his question, and only then did she notice a waiter standing by their table who was also looking at her with questioning gaze. I am having steak, by the way, he added. I will have the same too, she stuttered. Austin nodded and instructed the waiter, who immediately bowed at them with a promise that he will be back with their order. Austin turned to look at her, his gaze falling from her face to her exposed shoulder to her scar on her collarbone. Hazel squirmed under his gaze. So Hazel, he began, why did you choose to date a random person Through an app, he asked to turn light and wasn't holding any accusing. I could ask the same for you, Hazel replied, still feeling shy and shocked. She didn't know from where she is having this confidence. You're an actor after all. Who could date someone of his class? She commented. What if I tell you that I don't really have any interest with the people of my class? He asked as he leaned back on the expensive chair and folded his hand on his chest, one brow at her. He looked intimidating. His bucket that hat was shielding most of his face so that he won't have to encounter any fans when he is busy with his date. I won't believe you, she replied in Austin shock. Right now and answer my question. Why did you choose a stupid app? Hazel thought for a while for a clever reply to the asked question. I don't know how much boy in my class nor do have any boyfriend, she replied, gulping as Austin was still looking at her. Ah, class, you're an student class. No, I just graduated this week, she said. Austin nodded. Silence stretched between them like a carpet. It was getting uncomfortable, and when the waiter arrived with their orders, Hazel just wanted to thank him for breaking the silence. They both ate their dinner in a record time, and during this time, none of them initiated a talk with the other. Every now and then, Hazel would pick up at him and would catch him looking at her, but he never looked down whenever they had their eye contact. He was too confident about himself. I have a proposal for you, Hazel, heard the man say as soon as they finished their dinner. Proposal? What proposal? Marriage proposal, Austin replied and pulled out his mobile from his pocket. Excuse me, Hazel roared at him. What the hell? A marriage proposal? She must have heard wrong. I have a marriage proposal for you, Austin replied, still scrolling through his phone. He was looking at her while answering her question. Are you out of your mind? Who the hell proposes on their first date? Hazel Evans, a 23-year-old, you completed your graduation a week ago in California. You are an orphan, but you left orphanage at the age of 18 because of studies. You are a contemporary dancer. He read what was being displayed on his mobile phone. What? How did you? I have my ways, Austin shrugged with an annoyingly handsome smirk on his face that seems to be plastered on his face forever. As I said, I have a marriage proposal for you. You have to sign it tomorrow. I will send my men to your place for. Hazel was beyond shocked. The man knew so much about her. It was creepy, extremely creepy. What are you talking about? Who do you think you are to force me into this ridiculous marriage? We have just met, and that is enough for me to decide that I want you as my wife. Austin replied, arrogance on his face. The way media show him on screen as a complete sweetheart and kind person, it is all lie. I am not doing any of this, she said, getting annoyed by each passing minutes. Who does Austin think he is? Just because he is an actor and has wealth, it doesn't mean that he could buy anyone he wants. She isn't some showpiece. I will be paying you for this, Austin said, his voice as low as ever, and Hazel can't believe it. The orphanage that you live now need financial help. I can provide that to them, he proposed. Hazel frowned at him. The man knows more than he should. She is still pissed off that he did a background check on her. What? Hazel asked, voice low. In return, you have to marry me, he shrugged. Why? Austin sighed and rolled his black eyes. You ask too much questions. Excuse me, but no one asked her. They to marry them during their first date, she countered back. Fair point, Austin agreed. Long story short, my grandparents are behind my back to get married, and I don't wanna get married. So you will marry me, but it will just be on papers. He explained, I will look after your necessity and well-being. I will also look after the orphanage, he promised. Hazel, who was still confused about the entire deal, just looked at him with wide gaze. You have nothing to lose, Austin said. Just be married to me for 3 years, and once we are done, we will go on our own way. Hazel didn't speak for a few moments. The proposal was quite fascinating, and he closed his eyes as he rested her again on the leather chair in his office. His dark hair were falling on her eyebrows, wet from the shower. He didn't even bother to dry them off. He sounds desperate. He knows what, but he doesn't care about it. His grandparents just wanted him to get married, have kids, and live a happy married life. Austin didn't want that. He never wanted that. He was happy being at the top of the most successful bachelor of the country. He had gained enough popular in his career. Directors and producers are getting in line to sign him up to their movies. Money isn't his problem. He is also satisfied with his life. He didn't have any stable relationship, but he had his fair share of one-night stand. Of course, fans didn't know this side of him. He has to portray himself as a sweet, innocent, and shy kind boy who is a complete gentleman. Half of this is true. He is sweet, but definitely not shy and innocent. He had brought many girls and even boys in his bed and sent them to the heaven. They fall for his charms and they chase after him. But he has always been off limits. Sex is good, but dating is not. He could easily get married to some model or actress, but they can be pain in the Hazel is not a public figure and she is also in need of money. And on top of that, she is naive, almost innocent, who doesn't know what she's doing to her for herself. Austin smirks to himself. But the flaw is that she still hasn't called yet. It's been 16 hours. What is there to think anyway? Austin sighed as he closed his eyes in frustration. He has to attend the damn dinner with his grandparents tomorrow night and he had promised them to bring his fiancée with him. His grandparents always pastures him to date someone and so shut them up. He promised them that he will bring his girlfriend to whom he had proposed recently. Of course, everything was lie, but they didn't have to know that. His phone vibrated on the table, an irritating buzzing sound, and he instantly jumped to grab the phone, his eyes wide in anticipation. A smirk appeared on his handsome face when his phone flashed the name of Miss Evans. Of course she would call, he thought. No one can escape his charm. He is Austin Roberts after all. He swiped to receive the call and pressed it to his left ear. Roberts, he said, voice stern and distant that could easily make anyone nervous. He didn't want it to show that he was waiting for her call. Hi, I'm Hazel. An old shy voice greeted him back, and Austin's smirk only grew bigger. The girl sounded nervous good. He's like to have upper hand. I know, he replied, not exaggerating his reply any further. There was a pause on her side, and Austin waited patiently. He already knew why she could, but to think that the girl was nervous made him feel satisfied. I called to answer your proposal. I thought a lot yesterday and she stopped. Maybe she was fine jetting. Austin concluded, I think I will accept your proposal. She said. Finally, Austin wanted to scope, of course. You think? He asked again just to annoy her even more. Teasing her even more, I never thought that you could think to accept your proposal. I am ready to be married to you, she corrected herself. Her voice sounded so small and unlike her, but yet underlying sarcasm. Okay, I will send my assistant to place you. Make sure that you read all of that and sign it before today evening, he said. Today, she asked. She sounded as if she was afraid. Yes, today, he confirmed. He wanted to say that his grandparents are expecting them at dinner tomorrow, but decided against it. Let not make the girl even more nervous. Okay, and Austin ended the call. He leaned back on the chair, a satisfied smile on his face. He glanced at the glass window and saw how the climate had turned gloomy and dark. The sky was now dark gray. A thunderstruck and soon it was pouring hard. Austin remained unfazed as he just continued to glare at his own reflection that was staring back at him. Things are finally going the way he planned. A chirpy doorbell rang around the small one-bedroom hall kitchen apartment in Hazel groaned. She has just talked with Austin just some 40 minutes ago after she sudden marriage proposal. Yesterday night, she was barely able to sleep a blink. Grunting to herself, she stepped down from the bed and slipped into floppy B slippers and made her way towards the door. She opened the door and was face to face with a very handsome man. The said man was still tall, lean, and extremely pale. His hair were black and were styled back with gel. Hazel concluded he kind of reminded her of a cat because of how tiny his eyes were. "I am Daniel Taylor, Mr. Roberts' assistant." The said man, Daniel said, voice deep and hoarse tone and sound almost robotic. He was standing as stiff as a stick in the doorway. In his mind, she almost forgot what Austin had previously said. She was too nervous thinking about how she just agreed to be married to the one of the most successful actor of the country. "Oh, please come in," she said, and awkwardly stepped to the side to give him space to come in. Once the man walked in, she closed the door behind him. The man looked around the apartment, observing everything from the old photo frames hanging on the wall to the cheap gray sofa she had brought a month ago. Hazel felt self-conscious. She was dressed in old pajama with rabbits design that seemed to be extremely overwashed. She needs to buy new pajama. He turned to look at her and pitched the paper out of his coat pocket of expensive-looking suit. "I'll back at it tonight, so make sure that the papers are signed. Also, if you want to change few things, let me know," he said. His lips were thin, nose small, and eyes round. He looked cute, but his voice was something else. And with that said, he turned on his heels and left the apartment immediately. Hazel looked at the papers in her hand. She made her way toward the bedroom and sat on the bed. She pulled the bit on her legs as she rested her head on the headboard. The loud sound of rain can be heard. She hated rain. The sound is terrifying. She didn't know from when and why she started to hate the rain. She glanced at her first page of the contract, which says marriage contract between Austin Roberts and Hazel Evans. Everything in bold. It were that she's getting married to someone she just met yesterday. She turned the page. It mainly consists of the personal details of both the parties. Hazel didn't waste her time reading that. The head clauses got her eye. There were various clauses mentioned on the page. It simply states that this marriage will be highly confidential. Hazel has to pretend to be a loving wife in front of his family. Not even her friends should know that she's getting married. She can't be pregnant his entire time. No, a partner should be brought to the house. In return, Austin will take care of her financially. The heading clauses got her eye. There were various clauses mentioned on the page. It simply states that this marriage will be highly confidential. Hazel has to pretend to be a loving wife in front of his family. Not even her friends should know that she's getting married. She can't be pregnant this entire time. No partner should be brought to the house. In return, Austin will take care of her financially. The manager of the designer boutique said Austin stood in front of him, demanding for the latest clothing lines. The new clothing line was of summer dress, but lately it was raining like crazy, and Mewitz was old. Hazel just stood beside him, eyes gone wide as he stared at all the dresses in front of her. She didn't even want to see their prices. The boutique they were in right now looked expensive, just like it was. There were sofa placed at a regular interval. The lighting was yellowish and low, giving it a sophisticated look. She has never gone to any such expensive boutique. She was used to the cheap clothes. "Pack them all and send it to my home," he said, its voice holding the authority. He had the aura which can easily make anyone feel intimidated by him. All of them. Is he gone crazy? But again, he was rich and spending hefty amount of money on clothes didn't affect him much. He probably makes Hazel could only follow Austin around the boutique as she said man continue to shop from the shop as if no tomorrow. Hazel usually enjoys shopping, but right now the staff were looking at her with disgust in their eyes. Of course they would. She was wearing cheap clothes after all, and on the other side her fiancé was wearing designer clothes. She felt small, from jewelry to shoes, from makeup to the purse. He stopped everything. He didn't even ask Hazel about her opinion for the stops as he just continued ordering the stuff around, and they were practically behaving as if Austin was a chunk of sugar and they were ants. Who said money can't buy happiness? As they walked out of the boutique, the manager was carrying 3 bags for them. Austin had his grip on his waist, keeping her beside him. "We're attending dinner at my grandparents' house. I expect you to show up decently," he said as soon as he sat in the driver's seat. He glanced at Hazel from top to bottom, examining her with his crucial gaze. "We should take you to the parlor," he added. "We are just attending the dinner. It's not like we are getting married." She reasoned. Usually girls can get nervous when meeting their in-laws, but surprisingly, she isn't. She is calm and collective. "Meet my family." Hazel sat quietly in the posh black car. Her long black hair were looped down. She was wearing a bottle green short dress that reached up to her knees. She was wearing black heels and holding a black matching purse. Austin was sitting beside her wearing a black shirt and black jeans. He was not wearing any mask today, nor did he wear any bucket hat. His hair were styled back up, exposing his forehead. His sharp gaze was on the road, and he looked intimidating. They were both sitting in the car. Hazel turned and diverted his gaze towards the window. The moon looked beautiful today. Surprisingly, it wasn't raining like it did for 2 days previously. Maybe Hazel wasn't showing it, but she was definitely nervous about meeting his grandparents. It wasn't a secret that Austin lost both his parents when he was 9 years old. Celebrity life is never a secret. Media thinks that they have the whole right to invade in their privacy. "My favorite color is black," Austin suddenly said, and Hazel snapped towards him, eyebrow furrowed in confusion as she talked at him. "They will like us." "You were questioned, and I won't be surprising if they ask you about my favorite things," Austin clarified, his gaze still on the road. "They are just like that." Hazel just mindlessly nodded. She has absolutely no idea about what to expect from his family dinner. They are supposed to be engaged couple, and yet they know nothing about each. Austin made sure that he spelled out his favorite things to Hazel throughout the drive. He was nervous too. He had never lied to his grandparents before. Yes, he was definitely a good boy for them. In her dazed mind, Hazel didn't know what if she remembered what Austin had said, but she tried to remember as much as she could. Even though the heater was on the car she was pressing, her fingertips were as cold as an ice, so were her feet. Austin stopped the car after somewhat 10 minutes. He looked at Hazel, and to her surprise, he gave her a smile that looked as a sign of encouragement, but her nerves were too tangled to be encouraged by just a smile. There were so many questions running in the mind. What if they hate me? What if they ask me something extremely different? How should I act with Austin in front of them? Will this act be immediately caught? "Penny for your thoughts," Austin asked, his voice soft and amused smile playing on his face. God, how is he not nervous about this entire situation? Shouldn't he be more nervous? Because if his grandparents caught their act, they will be upset with Austin the most. "I am nervous," she replied honestly, as she adjusted her neckline properly as a sign of how nervous she was feeling right now. "Don't be, just follow my steps," he said, and added a wink. He then stepped down from the car and walked towards Hazel's side and opened the door for her. "Park the car," he said as threw the car case to one of the guards, who caught the case and nodded hurriedly. It was then that Hazel noticed the house, no, not house, a manor Austin. pulled her closest to him by holding her by her waist of caught off guard. She blushed at the unexpected touch but smiled nonchalant. She shouldn't chew that it was the first time he was touching her. She looked around. The manor was huge, painted white with slight touch of blue. There was a huge water fountain exactly in front of the manor. The fountain had a woman's statue who was holding a bucket from which the water was spilling. There were lights provided at the bottom of the fountain, which made various use on the water flowing. On left as well as on the right side was a garden which mainly consists of roses, pink roses, basic flowers, yet it was beautiful. Hazel Evans was lost at words. Her mouth was hung open before she shut it close. "Let's get the going, darling, Austin, honey," like boy said, and Hazel quickly looked at him before nodding. They walked on the stone ramp, and every step she took, it felt as if she is walking on the red carpet. It was marvelous. Austin opened the huge wooden door of the manor and walked in. His grip on Hazel was never lost. "You are 10 minutes late," a cold male voice greeted them. Hazel snapped her gaze toward the front and saw an elderly man, maybe in his mind mid-60s, standing in front of them. The man was wearing a white polo shirt and black pants, still as strict as I remember. "Grandpa," Austin commented, his voice light with amusement. "Ah, Grandpa, hello. Nice to finally meet you." Hazel's voice crept and she was smiling sweetly at the elder man. "Grandpa," Elia Roberts turned to look at her, gaze intense as he looked from up to down at her, and Hazel resisted the urge to squirm in nervousness under his gaze. "You must be Hazel, right?" Elihu asked, his voice surprisingly soft. "Austin told a lot about you, and I am pleased to finally meet you too. Come in, your grandma is waiting for you," he said with a smile as he turned around and gestured them to follow him. Hazel glanced at Austin, who was already looking at her. He gave smile. They walked behind Elihu in complete silence. No one was saying anything. Hazel thought that maybe Elihu is angry with Austin, or maybe he already disliked her. Just like outside, the interior of the manor was just as splendid. Everything was white and blue and gray. Weird combination, but it blended amazingly. "Your grandma busied herself in the kitchen since morning, refusing to get any help by the maids," Elihu said as they walked in the dining room. "That is something that she'd do." Austin shocked as he gestured Hazel to sit on the chair while he sat beside her. "Well, what did you expect? You didn't even bother to show your face for almost 1 year," Elihu commented as she just stood in front of them. "I was in Tokyo, Pa. You know how busy I was from the shooting schedule," he said. "So busy that you didn't miss your grandma?" a smooth voice said, and everyone turned towards the direction of the voice. A woman with jet black bands was walking toward Austin, who was now already standing from his seat, and before anyone can know what was happening, Austin was engulfed in a hug. "I miss you, Ma, and you know it right," he said with laugh in his voice. They pulled away, and suddenly the woman's gaze was on Hazel. "Hello," Hazel gazed softly, almost suddenly nervous than he was before. "Grandma," Georgia just kept looking at her for a long minute. Tension was high in the air, and Hazel could hear her own heartbeat. "She's truly a beauty," Georgia commented and smiled at herself before moving forward and hugging her too, and Hazel found her breath again. They pulled away, and Georgia was genuinely smiling at her. It was comforting in a sort of way. Georgia then busied herself with last-minute preparation of the dinner, while Austin and Elihu were busy talking about God knows what. Hazel just sat there, fidgeting with herself. Soon, Georgia placed all the dishes in front of them. Georgia sat in front of Hazel, giving her a gentle smile. "She is lovely," Hazel concluded. How did you two meet?" Georgia asked. Once they were done with the dinner, excitement in her voice, and Hazel gulped nervously. "Yesterday, Austin has given her a full script about how they met, and yet it was reeking. I was on my way to college. I was pretty lot that day, Hazel stated and turned to give Austen her best fake loving smile. In my rush, I completely forgotten to apply any lipstick. God, it sounded so ridiculous. She used my car window as a mirror. Austen laughed and leaned forward to place a kiss on Hazel's head, and I was already wept for the beauty. He added his smile again before leaning forward and planting a prick on her lips, taking her off guard completely. His eyes widened at that. That wasn't in the plan. That is so romantic, Georgia exclaimed as she clapped her hands, toothed in the delight. Hazel turned to look at her with a tight smile, trying her best to not blush because of the kiss. Austen just smiled at both of them. Georgia asked many questions to Hazel. Hazel told her that she is an orphan and was raised in an orphanage. She didn't remember much about her life before orphanage. Hearing her stories, which was her true story, Georgia felt sympathetic towards the girl. Austen was listening to her very closely, brows furrowed in confusion. I had asked Edward to pay us visit today, but he said that he is busy, Elio said. Hazel turned to look Austen, clearly confused about who Edward is. My little brother is more busy than I will ever be, he said, giving Hazel a hint that they're talking about his brother. Yeah, he's just like you. When he get busy, he completely forget about us, Georgia said with a shake of her head. Austen shocked and gave her apologetic smile. Actually, we wanted to announce something, he said, gaining everyone's attention. He looked at Hazel and faked a loving smile at her. We're getting married next week. Silence stretched between them like a carpet. What? We were actually planning about this since months now, but we weren't free, Austen said as he looked at his grandma who was gaping at him. Oh God! Congratulations! His grandmother exclaimed, a genuine happiness on her face. I'm so happy, Austen could already see tears firmly in her eyes. We should start making the preparation. Austen again gave her apologetic smile. Actually, our wedding won't be glamorous. It won't be in the court, he explained, but we had so much planned for your wedding. Elio said, sounding just as dejected as he felt. Our wedding won't be enclosed to the world, pa. I don't want Hazel on my future kids to suffer, without any hesitation. Hazel shook on her own speed. Future kids? Seriously? No wonder he's an actor. Georgia and Elio nodded in understanding. When they were about to leave, Georgia hugged Austen, who promised her that he will visit them soon. Elio followed the suit. Hazel was again taken aback, then Georgia hugged her too. She wasn't used to this kind of treatment, but it was welcoming. I am so glad that Austen found you, Georgia said against Hazel's shoulder. He has always been giving person. He may seem a lot, but he was a heart of the gold. Take good care of him for me, she added when she pulled back. She cupped Hazel's face and planted a soft pick on her forehead, and Hazel wanted to cry. She felt so guilty for pulling everyone. She wanted to tell everyone that she is picking everything, that she doesn't deserve their kindness. They were the first people who had been kind of her without even knowing fully about her, and all Hazel's doing is taking their kind words and action for granted. When Austen and Hazel sat in the car, Hazel diverted her gaze towards the window, figuring out that rushing scenery is more comfortable than looking at Austen at the moment. When Austen dropped her to her apartment, she just curled into her bed, feeling guilty and worthless. She was fooling everyone. Was it worthy? Can she just live a normal life like she always wanted to? Sleep refused to come to her that night, even when she closed her eyes. Her mind refused. The wedding. Hazel didn't know how the entire week was gone by, and suddenly it was Sunday, their wedding day. It was all a business and nothing more. She wasn't excited like she thought she would be on such an important day, but again, it was just pure business. Austen never called her to discuss anything. It was as if she didn't remember that that she exists. Every information or instruction was given by Daniel, the cat-like secretary of Austin, who would instruct her in his casual clip tone. Whenever he talked to Hazel, she always thought that he was mad at her for some reason, but that wasn't the case. It was just Daniel's personality. Yesterday, a white dress was delivered to her by Daniel, and Hazel didn't even glance at the dress. The guilt so high, and that the dress felt as it was choking her. She was spoiling everyone. Today, she wore the dress. It was nothing sort of fancy, just a tight of shoulder white dress that reached up her knees. It was plain and simple. Hazel already was in love with it. It was comfortable and looked expensive. It was in fact expensive. She did a bare minimum makeup and let her thick black hair fall gracefully on her back. She decided to wear a diamond earrings that were given to her by Austin. Soon, Austin picked her up from her apartment. He saw her looking as handsome as ever. He was wearing a black dress shirt and black pants. His jet black hair was slicked to the side. The wedding took place in a beautiful ornate building. Hazel gazed around, fascinated by the beauty. On the other hand, Austin was calm. He had already instructed that their marriage news should be out to the media. It took exactly 3 hours for registration. After applying for the marriage and providing them all the personal information, the process was tiring. Afterwards, they stood side by side to each other as they posed for the photo. They kept their expression as neutral as possible. Austin was already good at his poker face, but it was difficult for Hazel, who thought that she will pass out any moment now. She was married in that too, with a handsome jerk who happened to be the heartthrob of the nation. The officer gave their marriage certificate. What will fans think if they knew that their idol is now married? They will probably run to kill her. Eleo and Georgia were present there too. They both used them tightly, giving blessing to both of them. I hope that we will soon be able to meet our grandchildren, Georgia commented with a sly smile. Hazel too badly wanted to tell her that there were no kids in the equation. Don't worry, Grandma, I will start working on it as soon as possible, Austin replied. Shamelessly, and gained a light slap on his arm by Georgia, who was laughing. He just chuckled and used his now wife. Hazel blushed at their conversation. Grandchildren weren't happening anything soon. She wanted to tell that to everyone. Take care of him for me, sweetheart. He needs someone who can love him. I am glad that he found you, Georgia whispered as she used Hazel again. And Hazel wanted to cry. She was deceiving everyone. Eleo and Georgia left the married couple alone in the office with a promise that they will arrange their honeymoon soon. She didn't want to go to honeymoon. Luckily, Austin has a movie project, and so he won't be able to leave the city. Once they left, Austin registered her to follow him. Hazel was quite relieved when she finally stepped out of the registration office. The process had tired her for the bones. A driver was waiting for them by a red car dressed in white shirt and black pants. The car was probably prepared for them by his grandparents. Austin shook his head and that they were always exaggerated. They walked the steps side by side, and Austin opened the door for her once they reached the car before walking to the other side and sitting wordlessly. The driver started the car, and Hazel turned to gaze out of the window. What has she done? Why did she agree to this marriage mess? But now is not the time to think about her decision. What done is done. She can't change anything now. The car ride was awkward as always. Austin was gazing out of the window, and so was Hazel. The gassing scenery was way bit better than pacing each other and feeling the awkward tension between them. Where are we going? Hazel asked after 20 minutes of car ride filled with complete silence. To our house, Austin replied, voice as stern as ever. Our house? Grandpa gifted us a penthouse in the city as our wedding gift. he explained, and Hazel nodded, so that is why a driver was arranged for them. And what about my stuff? She asked. She had brought nothing with her except a white cloth and her mobile phone. Everything you need is already placed in your new house, and if there is something you want from your previous belongings, we can drive to your place tomorrow to get them, Austin said as he opened his mobile phone and began scrolling through social media. Hazel sighed and looked away. The area they were heading to seemed to be a place where elite people lived. The roads were clean and there was a much of traffic around. The buildings were tall, sophisticated. Hazel was well educated, but the life of Austin seemed to be exactly opposite to her own. She wondered how she will cope up with Austin without feeling inferior. She hates this life already. Soon the driver pulled the car in front of a bungalow. Austin stepped out and saw old Hazel. I thought that the broad penthouse. Austin shocked as he looked at his new place. This is fine too. We will have an own space and desired privacy, he added. Hazel nodded. She too walked closer to the bungalow and stood beside Austin, who was still eyeing the building. The bungalow is big, extremely big, for just two people, but it was perfect for someone who wants to start a family. It was painted with a white and brown color. A huge glass wall was displaying the living room. It gave the bungalow a quite aesthetic look. It was surrounded by garden around it, and the compound wall was high enough to block any view of what's going inside. I'll take my leave, sir, they heard the driver say. Also, congratulations, he said. Austin turned to look at him with a smile on his face. Thank you, he replied softly and watched as the driver bowed and left them alone. Austin gestured Hazel to walk in, and he walked just behind her. Once they were inside the gate, she turned and locked at the gate with a pin code. It's beautiful, Hazel commented as she glanced at the garden. Various flowers were planted there of different colors. Maintaining them would be hard. Tall trees were towering over the place. It was beautiful and private. It is. I will hire someone to take care of the garden, Austin said as he walked further. It was impossible for them to take care of such a garden on their own. A stone way directed them towards the door of the building. Austin pushed the wooden door open as he walked in the bungalow. Hazel followed closely him. If the exterior was beautiful, the internal space was even more beautiful. The living room was colored with brown wool. There was a sofa placed in the middle of the living room. A teapot made up of wood was placed before the sofa. Sophisticated was the word that came into mind. A huge flat TV was placed just in front of the sofa. They walked upstairs where they thought the bedroom were supposed to be. Choose any room you want, Austin said as he pushed open the door of one bedroom. Hazel walked in. The bedroom was beautiful. There was a huge queen-size bed placed in the middle of the room, headboard against the wall. A bedside table was placed on the other side of the bed, where two lamps were standing. There was a bookshelf at the left side of the bed. There was a door attached that she assumed was for bathroom. There was a huge wardrobe placed at the tight side. The place was grand yet cozy. You can take this if you want, Austin said, and Hazel turned to look at him. I will take the room just opposite to yours. He gestured toward the wooden door that was standing facing opposite to her bedroom. Okay, she said with a quick nod. Austin nodded. You take a bath or something, tell. Then I will bring you clothes from downstairs, he said, and walked out of the room, leaving Hazel alone in this huge room. When he left, Hazel thought that she could finally breathe. She walked towards the bed and sat on it. She then removed her thigh heels that were irritating him. Since the beginning, once done, she let herself fall limp on the fluffy sofa bed. So this is her life. She wasn't used to the luxury. She had slept on bunk beds almost all her life. so this queen-sized bed felt like heaven. Groaning, she reluctantly made her way towards the bathroom. It was used just as she had expected. There was a toilet used, white sink, and a separate shower. But what caught her attention was a huge bathtub. She instantly imagined herself taking long baths in there. But right now, she opted to take a quick shower and hit the bed. After somewhat 15 minutes later, she walked out of the bathroom in a bathrobe and a towel around the hair. The room was just the way she had left. She opened the wardrobe and was surprised that all designer clothes were now placed in the wardrobe. The wardrobe was empty before. Did Austin fill this up? The size was just perfect. Each item of clothing was placed so perfectly as it is on display in the boutique. All her undergarments were placed in a bucket, folded properly. A blush adorned her face when she noticed that many of them were made up of lace. Did Austin place his too?